today we are going to read classic. So this is called Jane Eyre. You may have heard of it before. This specific copy is illustrated, so it does have pictures, but this is a very, very old book. It has also been made into a movie, so you might recognize the name just by knowing that it has been a movie as well. So let's take a look. It's called Jane Eyre, and we are going to read the first chapter of it for this week. And here are our contents, like we're used to looking at these, right? So chapter 1 is called My Unhappy Home, and it's on page 11, so let's go see that. So this is a picture. Here's the illustrations here. Here we go. Let's see if this can get any better. Okay. Chapter 1. My Unhappy Home. It was raining that day, and the cold cut to the bone. I was happy that I did not have to go outside. Usually Mrs. Reed made us take a walk after dinner. That evening, however, she said we could stay home. So now her children, Eliza, John, and Georgina, were in the drawing room sitting around her by the fireplace. I walked up to join them and be near the warmth of the fire, but she motioned to me to stay away. "You've been a bad girl," she said, "and I don't want you near us." "What have I done?" I asked. "Don't talk back to me," Mrs. Reed said. "You have an unpleasant manner. You have a bad temper. Little girls should speak pleasantly, always with a smile, or they should keep silent." I went to another room. It was a small room with bookcases against the walls and a bay window. I picked up a book, sat on the window seat, and drew the curtain so I could hide behind it. The book had beautiful pictures of birds in it, but before I could look at more than a few, I heard someone step into the room. "Boo!" John's voice said. "Miss Longface." I'm so glad I closed the curtain. I thought, John is too dumb to guess I'm hiding behind it. Just then, Eliza came into the room too. Eliza was smart. Eliza guessed right away where I was. So there's a picture of her. "She's in the window seat," she said to her brother. I came out from behind the curtain. "What do you want?" I said. "Say, what do you want, Mr. Reed?" John said to me. "I want you to come here." John was 14, only 4 years older than I was. He was tall and fat, and he had a round face with flabby cheeks, dull eyes, and a nasty expression. He would have normally been at a boarding school, but his mother had taken him out for a month or two on account of his delicate health. The truth was, there was nothing wrong with his health. He felt bad because he overate. He was too lazy to do his schoolwork, so he moped around all day and stuffed himself with the candy and sweets his mother sent him. He did not have a loving heart, and he did not show any affection to his mother or his sisters. Me? He hated. He tried to bully me and hurt me all the time. I don't just mean every day. I don't mean just once or twice a day. I mean every chance he had. Every time he saw me, I was constantly frightened of him, and there was no one to protect me. His mother pretended she did not see what was going on, and the servants were afraid that they would get fired if they took my side. I walked up to him, as he had commanded me to do. He sneered and pushed me down. "That's for talking back to Mama," he said. "What were you doing behind the curtain?" "I was reading." "Let me see the book." I went behind the window and brought him back the book. "You have no right to take our books," he said. "You have no right to rummage through our bookshelves. These are our books. This is our house. You have no money. You have no family. And you have no home of your own. You're an orphan. We let you sleep under our roof. We give you food to eat. We give you clothes to wear, but nothing here belongs to you. Go stand in the corner with your face to the wall." I obeyed and started to walk away, but before I could take more than 2 steps, he hurled the book at my back. It was a large, heavy book, and the blow made me fall. As I fell, I hit my head against the edge of a small table. The pain was awful. I had a deep cut on my side of my face, and it bled so much I was scared it wouldn't stop. "You mean nasty, good-for-nothing—" "What?" he screamed. "What did you say, Eliza? Eliza, did you hear her? Did you hear what she called me?" He grabbed my hair, pulling so hard I thought it would come out. I kicked. I punched, I scratched, I fought back with all my might. All at once, Mrs. Reed, Georgina, Bessie, who was the nanny, and Abbott, who was one of the servants, burst into the room. "What's this?" Mrs. Reed said. "What's this?" "Have you ever seen the like?" Abbott said. "She hit poor Mr. John. She scratched him." "Take her to the red room and lock her in there," Mrs. Reed said. "Please, no, please," I begged. But Bessie and Abbott already got a hold of me and were dragging me up the stairs. I kicked and screamed all the way. "She's like a mad cat," Bessie said. "Abbott, hold down her arms." "For shame, Miss Eyre," Abbott said. Is this a way for a little girl to behave?" They carried me to the red room and they set me down on a stool. The moment their arms were off me, I jumped back up like a spring. "Sit down or we'll tie you down," Bessie said. "Abbott, go fetch some rope." No, don't tie me down. I don't want to be tied down." "All right then," Bessie said. "Sit down and sit still." I sat down on the little stool. "Make sure you stay there," Bessie said. "Stay there and think over how bad you've been." "I'm going to say this to you for your own good, Miss Eyre," Abbott said in a kind voice. "You should try to be nice and pleasant. If you keep displeasing Mrs. Reed, she could throw you out on the street. Who would take care of you then? Remember, you're an orphan, and you haven't a penny to your name. You should pray to God to forgive you," Bessie said. "You should repent. If you don't repent, a terrible monster is going to come down the chimney and get you." They left, locking the door. The red room was the largest and most stately bedroom in the mansion. The floor was covered with red carpet. The windows were draped with red curtains, and the bed with a red bedspread on it. And the wallpaper was beige, with a pattern of bright red flowers. It was the room in which Mr. Reed had died, and no one had slept in it since. The fireplace had not been lit for years, and the windows were never opened to the air out of the room. It was damp and cold like a tomb. I was terrified to be alone in it. It was very dark. Abbott had left a single candle on the toilet table, and its flame was now flickering weakly. There was a large mirror on the wall. When I looked into it, a white figure with dark eyes like holes looked back. I gave a horrified cry. Before I realized I was looking at myself, a thin, pale 10-year-old with a narrow face and large eyes. The dark mirror made me look like a ghoul. I wish I were pretty. Eliza and Georgina were pretty and had beautiful curly blonde hair. My hair was dark, like my eyes, and straight. I was plain, and it was true that I was unpleasant. How could I be pleasant? I was too angry to be pleasant. They were cruel to me, and they were unfair. If Mr. Reed were still alive, he would make sure I was treated well. I was his sister's child. My mother had married a poor clergyman her parents did not approve of. They disinherited her and would have nothing to do with her at all. She died when I was born, and my father died from typhoid fever 6 months later. Mr. Reed took me in. He was a kind man, and he had loved his sister. When he died, he made Mrs. Reed promise him that she would take care of me, as if I were her own child. In this very room, standing by his bed, his deathbed, she had promised. Suddenly, I remembered how it was said that the dead haunt the people who have done them wrong. Mr. Reed had been wronged by his wife. She had broken the promise she had given to him. His ghost is haunting the house, I thought. His ghost comes back in this room where he died. It's the reason why no one sleeps here. It's the reason why they kept it locked. I knew Mr. Reed had loved me, and that his ghost would be friendly to me if it appeared. But I was terrified. Good ghost or mean ghost, I did not want to be locked up in a room with one. Just then I heard a rattling noise and saw a bright gleam of light shine on the wall. Now I know I must have been a carriage driving down the road, but at the time I was sure it was Mr. Reed's ghost. I let out a horrified shriek. Soon I heard footsteps on the stairs. A key turned in the door, and Bessie and Abbott rushed into the room. "Miss Eyre, what's wrong?" Bessie asked. "Take me out of here!" I screamed. "Take me out! I saw a ghost!" "She's just saying that," Abbott said. Mrs. Reed walked into the room. She was in a rage. "What's all this?" she said. "Bessie, Abbott, what are you doing in here? My orders were that Miss Eyre should be locked up in the red room, alone." "She screams so loud, ma'am," Bessie said. "Get out," Mrs. Reed told her. She turned to me. You think you can deceive me with your fake screams?" she said. "If there's one thing that's worse than a mean, unpleasant child, it's a child who lies." "Aunt, please," I begged. "I'll die if I stay here. Punish me another way. I'll do anything." "Silence," she said. "You'll stay in here until I say you can leave." She walked out of the room and shut the door. When I heard the sound of the key turning in the lock, I collapsed on the floor, fainting from fright. So, that's Jane Eyre. That's the first chapter of Jane Eyre. This is a classic. So, if you are interested in reading more classics like this one, they are in the library. So you should come and ask me to see if we can find more. So, I hope you enjoyed this first chapter Friday, and I hope you have the best Friday. See you next week.